Gamers, what is up? I am Matthew Cross, also known as Dark1778 here for HoldTheLine.com, and this is Gamer Input Episode 5. What are we going to talk about other than E3? Sony, Microsoft, they've laid the cards on the table, and it is up to you to make the decision now with all the information. So, who won, who lost? Well, let's roll into it and find out. So first up, Microsoft, you said after the reveal there would be no TV, no entertainment, it would be all about the games at E3. I will give you props, you lived up to your word on that. Games like Titanfall, games like Quantum Break, Froza, new Halo, Project Spark, just to name a few, look really interesting. And I will give you credit where it is due. You focused on the games, you delivered on the games. Some really interesting games. But did you take the time to address your customers' concerns at your press conference? Nope, because you canceled your press conference Q&A. Way to go. Really want to feel those hard questions, don't you, about gray areas that apparently you still can't get right and clarify. What do? You cancel 3 or 4 days before your press conference, your Q&A session, and you release a piece of paper. This is what it is. Wow. I got nothing on that one. So, from a games aspect, if I'm solely going by games, I will give Microsoft a solid B+ on the games. They delivered. No questions asked. However, the score goes down a little bit because, quite frankly, they didn't have balls enough to actually address customers and questions and, kind of man up and, say why they're doing what they're doing. So next up is Sony. There's been a lot of questions whether or not they were going to implement a DRM scheme like Microsoft. But before we get into that particular topic, let's get into what E3 is really all about. The games. How did Sony do on the games? I'd say they spread themselves a little thin. They showed a lot from February at E3. Infamous Second Son, Killzone Shadows Falls, Knack, and a few other games. The newest ones that they showed was 1886, which looks pretty cool. It's kind of a steampunk type game, but really they didn't show a whole lot that we hadn't seen before. What they made a big push on was indies, and how everything on the indie scene on PlayStation is easy because you can self-publish on PlayStation now. Yeah. Self-publishing for indies is a huge deal. So, what kind of indies are we talking about? We're talking about Oddworld, we're talking about Don't Starve, we're talking about Octodad, and so many more that there's just too many to name. That is a huge push for indies because if you add up all the indie devs, these guys make a big portion of the industry, much more than people give them credit for. So props to Sony as far as that push and bringing a wider berth of experience as far as games that are available, different flavors of game genres and whatnot. But the question remains, what did Sony do about the DRM? Did they implement it? Well, the question basically is, read that. No, there's nothing. No always online, no DRM, at all. No blocking used games, no constant internet connection. Everything the Xbox One requires as a feature, which most would view as a restriction, there's nothing on the PS4. So, Microsoft, you just got 2 strikes in the round of 3 seconds. To give you guys an idea of what I mean, there was about over a minute of applause at a press conference at an electronic expo. Yeah. I'd say Sony probably made a lot of people happy. So, but where did Sony actually really go? They beat Microsoft in the face repeatedly like a bad boxing match. So, how did Sony get the third strike on them though? They undercut Microsoft by $100 on the console launch. $399 for the PS4 as opposed to $499 for the Xbox One. That is huge. They undercut them. Sony learned from the PS3, and it's good to see that they learned. Microsoft, you suffered the arrogance every other third-gen system has. You said, screw the consumer. You lost touch with your core. And Sony just stole it right from out underneath you. Did Sony have the strongest game lineup? No, not really. I mean, they had some interest. It was up and down. It wasn't terrible. But the two things that won them were the price cut and the announcement of no DRM at all. To me, the thing that wins Sony over, though, is the fact that they had the balls to do it at the press conference, during the press conference. Something Microsoft didn't even want to deal with. That's telling of a company in and of itself. So Microsoft, you might need one of these.